The old house stood alone, shrouded in an eerie silence. It was a silence so profound that it seemed to swallow all sound, creating an unsettling void. The house had been abandoned for decades, yet it felt as though it was waiting, watching, and biding its time. Its windows, like empty eyes, stared out blankly, as if they had witnessed countless untold stories. These windows, now boarded up and forgotten, once allowed light and life to flow through, but now they only reflected the emptiness within, reflecting the dying light of the setting sun. The sun's rays, weak and fading, cast long shadows that seemed to stretch and twist, giving the house an even more sinister appearance. As the light dwindled, the house seemed to come alive in the darkness. Locals whispered tales of its sinister past. Stories passed down through generations. They spoke of strange occurrences, of people who entered and were never seen again, and of ghostly apparitions that roamed the halls at night, of a darkness that clung to its walls like a shroud. This darkness was not just the absence of light, but a tangible presence that seemed to reach out and touch anyone who dared to come close. The walls, once vibrant with life, were now decayed and crumbling, holding on to the memories of a time long gone. They called it the house that never sleeps, a name that sent chills down the spines of even the bravest souls. It was said that the house was always awake, always watching and always waiting for its next victim, a place where nightmares were born. Those who dared to spend a night within its walls often spoke of terrifying dreams, of being chased by unseen forces, and of waking up to find themselves in different rooms than where they had fallen asleep. The house exuded an oppressive aura, a weight that seemed to press down on anyone who came near. It was as if the very air around the house was thick with fear and despair, making it hard to breathe and even harder to think clearly, a palpable sense of dread that seeped from its very foundation. This dread was not just a feeling, but a living entity that seemed to wrap itself around anyone who dared to approach, whispering dark thoughts and filling their minds with terror. It was as if the house itself was alive, a malevolent being with its own thoughts and desires. The creaking of the floorboards, the groaning of the walls, and the whispering of the wind all seemed to form a sinister symphony, a heartbeat that echoed through the night. Its heart beating with a sinister rhythm, a rhythm that seemed to sync with the fear in the hearts of those who dared to enter. This heartbeat was a constant reminder that the house was always watching, always waiting, and always ready to claim its next victim. Its breath, a cold wind that sent shivers down the spines of those who dared to approach. This wind seemed to carry with it the whispers of the past, the cries of those who had been lost within its walls, and the promise of more to come. It was a place of secrets, secrets that were buried deep within its walls. These secrets were not just stories, but living entities that seemed to reach out and touch anyone who came near, filling their minds with visions of horror and despair. Where the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred, a place where the past and the present seemed to merge into one, it was said that the spirits of those who had died within its walls still roamed the halls, trapped between this world and the next, and where the echoes of past horrors lingered in every shadow. These echoes were not just sounds, but memories that seemed to replay themselves over and over, a constant reminder of the house's dark and sinister past. The house that never sleeps was not just a building, but a living entity, a malevolent force that seemed to feed on the fear and despair of those who dared to come near. The house was steeped in a history of sorrow, its very stones stained with the anguish of its former inhabitants. Each brick seemed to echo with the cries of those who had once called it home, their voices lost to time, but their pain ever present. The mansion stood as a monument to their suffering, a silent witness to the tragedies that had unfolded within its walls. It was said that a terrible curse had befallen the house, a curse that had woven itself into the very essence of the building. The origins of this curse were shrouded in mystery, whispered about in hushed tones by the locals. Some believed it was the result of a broken heart, others spoke of a betrayal so deep that it had left a permanent scar on the house. This curse, born of a tragedy so profound, had seeped into the very fabric of the building. The walls, once vibrant with life, now stood cracked and decaying, a testament to the sorrow that had taken root. The wallpaper, peeling and faded, seemed to tell a story of its own, each tear a reminder of the lives that had been torn apart. The curse was like a venomous serpent coiled in the heart of the house, its presence felt in every corner. It slithered through the rooms, leaving a trail of despair in its wake. The shadow of the serpent seemed to dance on the walls, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked within. Its fangs, dripping with the despair of generations past, were a symbol of the house's insatiable hunger for sorrow. The venom, a dark liquid that seemed to pulse with malevolence, represented the pain that had been inflicted upon those who had lived there. Each drop was a reminder of the suffering that had been endured, a testament to the house's dark history. It whispered through the drafty corridors, a constant reminder of the darkness that had taken root there. The wind, carrying with it the voices of the past, seemed to speak of the tragedies that had unfolded. The flickering lights cast eerie shadows on the walls, creating an atmosphere of unease and foreboding. Its grip on the house was absolute, its influence inescapable. The heavy locked doors, wrapped in chains, were a symbol of the house's hold on its inhabitants. No one could escape the curse, no matter how hard they tried. The chains, rusted and worn, seemed to represent the passage of time and the enduring nature of the curse. Those who dared to call the house their home were doomed to become ensnared in its web of sorrow. They entered with hope, but soon found themselves trapped in a nightmare. The fear in their eyes was palpable, their hesitation a sign of the danger that awaited them. Each step they took seemed to bring them closer to their doom. Their lives would become entangled with the tragic history of the house, their fates sealed by the curse. The portraits of sad, historical figures that adorned the walls seemed to watch over them, their eyes filled with sorrow. The family photos, now faded and forgotten, were a reminder of the lives that had been lost to the curse. Their fates intertwined with the spirits that haunted its halls. These ghostly figures, dressed in period clothing, seemed to drift through the house, their presence a constant reminder of the past. They moved silently, their translucent forms barely visible in the dim light. Each spirit carried with it a story of tragedy, a tale of a life cut short by the curse. The house fed on their fear, their despair its sustenance. The shadows, ever present and consuming, seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. The dark corners of the house, filled with faint, eerie movements, were a testament to the house's insatiable hunger. It thrived on the suffering of its inhabitants, drawing strength from their pain. The house, a living entity in its own right, continued to cast its shadow of tragedy over all who dared to enter. A group of unsuspecting travelers, drawn by the allure of the unknown, arrived at the house's doorstep. The house stood like a sentinel of secrets, its windows dark and foreboding, its walls whispering tales of the past. The travelers, unaware of the house's sinister history, felt a strange pull, an inexplicable urge to explore its depths. They were a motley crew, each with their own secrets and motivations for seeking refuge within the house's crumbling walls. Among them was a young couple, their eyes filled with the spark of adventure, hoping to escape the monotony of their daily lives. They held hands tightly, as if drawing strength from each other in the face of the unknown. There was a young couple seeking adventure and a break from the mundane. Their hearts beat in unison, a mix of excitement and trepidation coursing through their veins. They had heard stories of the house, tales of ghostly apparitions and unexplained phenomena, but they dismissed them as mere folklore. A writer, hoping to find inspiration in the house's eerie solitude, he carried a worn notebook, its pages filled with half-written stories and sketches. The writer believed that the house's atmosphere would spark his creativity, that the silence would allow him to hear the whispers of his muse, and a historian, determined to uncover the truth behind the house's haunted reputation. Armed with a camera and a notebook, The historian was ready to document every detail, every shadow, and every creak. He had spent years researching the house, piecing together its dark history, and now he was finally here, ready to confront the legends head-on. They were oblivious to the darkness that awaited them, to the malevolent presence that watched their every move from the shadows. The house, with its long-forgotten secrets, seemed to breathe, its very walls alive with a sinister energy. The travellers felt a chill in the air, a sense of being watched, but they brushed it off as nerves. The house welcomed them with a cold embrace, its silence broken only by the creaking of floorboards beneath their feet. Each step echoed through the empty halls, a reminder of the countless souls who had walked there before them. The travellers moved cautiously, their eyes darting to every shadow, every flicker of movement. Little did they know that they were stepping into a nightmare, that the house had already begun to weave its sinister spell around them. The air grew heavier with each passing moment, the walls seemed to close in, and an unspoken dread settled over the group. They had come seeking adventure, inspiration, and truth, but what they would find was far beyond their darkest fears. The house, with its malevolent presence, had claimed them as its own, and there would be no escape from the horrors that awaited within its shadowy depths. Section 4. Whispers in the Night. The first night in the house was a symphony of unsettling sounds. The wind howled through the eaves, mimicking the cries of tormented souls. Floorboards creaked underfoot as if the house itself was shifting and groaning. Whispers seemed to emanate from the empty corridors, faint and indistinct, yet charged with an undeniable malice. Objects moved inexplicably, doors slammed shut with no apparent cause, shadows danced at the edge of their vision, fleeting glimpses of something sinister lurking just beyond the reach of the flickering candlelight. The travellers tried to rationalize their fears, to dismiss the strange occurrences as tricks of the wind or their own overactive imaginations. Section 5. The walls are closing in. As days turned into nights, the disturbances in the house grew bolder, more menacing. A cold spot in the hallway seemed to follow them, a chilling presence that sent shivers down their spines. The scent of decay lingered in the air, a sickly sweet aroma that spoke of something rotten at the heart of the house. They were being watched, they were sure of it. The travellers' initial curiosity turned to unease, then to outright fear. The house was toying with them, tightening its grip, slowly stripping away their sanity. They were no longer in control, their fates intertwined with the house's malevolent will. Section 6. Trapped in a nightmare. One by one, the travellers began to experience vivid nightmares, their sleep plagued by terrifying visions. They dreamt of the house and its tragic past, of the spirits that roamed its halls, their eyes filled with an ancient sorrow. The line between dreams and reality blurred the house's darkness, seeping into their waking hours. The house was isolating them, turning them against each other. Their fears and suspicions festered, their once strong bonds fraying under the relentless pressure. They were trapped in a nightmare, their every move dictated by the house's sinister will. Section 7. The Face of Terror. The tension reached a fever pitch. A terrifying entity revealed itself, its form shifting and indistinct, its eyes burning with a cold, malevolent light. It was the embodiment of the house's curse, the manifestation of its pain and rage. The travellers were paralyzed with fear, their hearts pounding in their chests. This was no mere haunting, no simple ghost story. This was something far more sinister, something ancient and evil that defied all rational explanation. The house had chosen its moment, and it was ready to unleash its full fury upon them.